Good evening and welcome to the Classical Now. I'm Will Fraser and tonight I'm joined by the young Canadian pianist David Jalbert. David, it's lovely to have you with us tonight.
Thank you, Will.
Now, you've recently moved back to Canada from a spell in America, New York. How does it feel to be back?
It's just great. After 2 years in New York, 2 years which might not have been at the best moment in history. I moved there 2 weeks before September 11. And then moved out shortly after the war in Iraq. So it might not have been the greatest time to be in America. Nevertheless, I did enjoy it, but at this point, very, very happy to be back in Montreal, where most of my friends are anyway, and where living costs are reasonable. And yeah, it's just such a pleasant city anyway, so I'm very happy to be back there.
Could you tell us about your background and how you came to the piano?
There was a funny little moment when I was 4.5 years old, where my dad came over to me and said, "Would you like to take piano lessons?" He said it in French, but and at that point I was just, what is a piano? Okay, right. So that's how I got to my first piano lesson. Sort of didn't care for a while. I was a terrible, terrible kid on the piano. No attention span, no interest whatsoever. Couldn't count to save my life for 5 years. I was anything but a child prodigy. And then when we moved back to Rimouski, which is when I was 9 or something, I somehow wormed my way into the conservatoire there. I don't know how I got in, but I did. And and there I got this new teacher, Sœur Pauline Charon, which really kicked my butt a little bit and made me work. And in working with her, I really discovered music, and that's when at around 10 years old I started being interested in it. And then she would make me take part in competitions such as the Canadian music competitions, which a lot of kids do. And then you have the regional finals, the provincial finals, and the national finals. And then you see you're not the only one in the world doing this, right? And you hear people who are like really, really good at playing the piano when they're young, and you're like, well, maybe I should start working a little harder. And it's also where I started hearing repertoire. And that really made a difference to me, because if you hear music that you fall in love with and you say, I want to play this, then it really is a great motivation for a kid. So that's sort of how it happened for me.
The Mozart piece which you played seems to be deceptively simple. But, could you comment about the difficulties involved with playing that?
Well, the difficulty in Mozart is really that it is deceptively simple. That's the problem with it. Well, this one piece, this rondo, it was the first time I ever performed it today, so it was very stressful for me, and I find it scarier than playing, say, the big Chopin Sonata or something. Just because it's so naked. You feel like every little thing that is uneven, every little pressure of the finger that is a little too much on this one note in the middle of this group sticks out to the entire world, and you feel just miserable about each one of those. And when you zoom into the piece and you learn it yourself, like, every little thing counts. And Mozart remains one of the most difficult things to play out there, because it's always simple, always melodic. It's always obvious where it should be going. And somehow we just can't do it. And it's also the problem that the music is so wonderful, each and every note of it, that you want to make everything perfect. You want to make everything matter. You want it to be so pristine. And yet, because of all of this, because you want to do so much, you get nervous, you tighten up, you have memory slips, and pandemonium ensues.